Here are my top 10 movies of the year. It's actually my top 8 movies released in 2025, plus 2 more that came out earlier, but I didn't get the chance to watch until this year. So I'm cheating a little bit, but I hope you'll bear with me here. The list is highly subjective. There's no ranking from 1 to 10. And after the top 10, I will also give you the honorable mentions and my most disappointing movies of the year. And last but not least, I'll give you my movie of the year from the top 10, but you'll have to watch until the end to find out what that is. So let's get started. The first movie is One Battle After Another, directed by Paul Thomas Anderson. It's a distinctly American movie. It presents themes of rebellion, parenthood, choices, forks in the road. I personally think this was one of Anderson's best movies of his career. It's also interesting how divisive the movie seemed to be. In the US, it was highly acclaimed. There are so many think pieces written about the deeper themes of the movie. But in China, I would say most of that just kind of fell flat. I suspect that for the majority of Chinese audiences, it didn't mean anything deeper than just a good story, which is what it is. It's a well-paced, plotted, acted film. There are some great performances in here by Leonardo DiCaprio, Sean Penn, Benicio del Toro, and the actress who plays DiCaprio's daughter. Also interesting that when you learn more about how the movie's made, a lot of it being improv, freeform, your enjoyment of the film also grows. No matter how you view the movie, I think it's a very memorable film and definitely one of my top films of the year. The next movie, we have No Other Choice, directed by Park Chan-wook. It's a dark comedy and drama about a man who loses his job and his livelihood. It's adapted from an American novel called The Axe. The story is a clever social commentary on corporate life and the consumer culture we are all complicit in. I have been a big fan of Park Chan-wook's films over the years. Back to the revenge films like Oldboy and Lady Vengeance, even his later works like Thirst, and the more recent Decision to Leave. I'm not sure where this film ranks on his pantheon, but I'll be sure to watch it again. It's good. Next up, we have The Brutalist, directed by Brady Corbet and starring Adrian Brody and Guy Pearce. It's an immigration story and an American epic. Here, Brody plays maybe his second or third Holocaust protagonist as a Jewish immigrant to America. He's an architect who finds a way to fit in, and that includes finding a benefactor who supports what he does. But it's about so much more than that. There's so many themes at play, and I think it's a true capital E epic in every sense of the word. There's some really strong supporting performances by the previously mentioned Guy Pearce and ensemble cast. The ending is a little controversial, but I didn't actually mind it. It makes sense in a kind of challenging the reliable narration sort of way. It does make us, as the audience, do a little bit of work to fill in the blanks and to come to our own conclusions. Not as straightforward as many people would like. Nonetheless, I think it's a very powerful movie, and it's on my top 10 for 2025. The next movie I want to mention is from China, because I'm in China and I watch a number of Chinese films. This one is called Lang Lang Shan Xiao Yao Gui, and the English title is Nobody. It's a Chinese animated feature about a ragtag group of Yao Guai, or monsters, who have to masquerade as the Journey to the West Xiouji gang in order to survive. I love these alternate history stories. The movie has a lot of heart, has a good message. The animation is really well done. I found myself laughing out loud in a lot of moments, and it was just overall quite surprising to me how well it was executed. It's directed by Yu Shui, and I highly recommend this movie. I think it's among the best that I've seen this year. The next movie is also from China, and that is Nanjing Zaoshangguan, or the English title, Dead to Rights. It's a dramatic story set during the Japanese occupation of Nanjing, directed by Shen Ao. And it tells the story of a group of Chinese survivors who have to find a way to get out of the city, escaping danger from the Japanese occupation, set in this photo studio with the themes of photo development and having to collaborate with the Japanese in order to find their freedom. This is truly a serious and heartbreaking story. It's based on the historical events. A lot of horrible things happen in the movie, but they are historically accurate. And of course, this being a film made in China, you have to assume a certain perspective. But nonetheless, it's a really well-executed film that reinforces the message, never forget. Performances were great all around, and I really enjoyed it despite the grim subject matter. Next up on the list is the reboot of Superman, written and directed by Wayne Gunn. It's yet another reboot of the Superman franchise. The lead role of Superman is played by David Corenswet. He does an earnest Clark Kent / Superman that still manages to be relevant and timely in the year 2025, and that is no easy feat. It also stars Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane and Nicholas Hoult as the evil, maniacal Lex Luthor. I think there's a lot of good things going for this movie. For one, it's an effective reboot. Secondly, it explains the Lex Luthor obsession with Superman in an understandable, relatable way. Look, my personal challenge as a viewer with Superman in general is that fundamentally, I think he's a boring character or superhero. But James Gunn, the writer and director, manages to make Superman somewhat interesting, and that's no easy feat. The middle part does drag a little bit, but overall, I still think it's quite an enjoyable ride, and I would recommend this as one of my top movies of the year. Next up, we have F1, directed by Joseph Kosinski and starring Brad Pitt as an aging race car driver on the Formula One circuit, competing with a young, up-and-coming driver played by Damson Idris. I loved this film. It captures the speed and exhilaration, and more importantly, the strategy of the sport. Even though I'm not an F1 aficionado, I did spend quite a lot of time reading and watching explanations of what happened in the movie, including how realistic it is. So I'm confident in saying that it captured all the major notes and tension of real F1 racing. It's also technically innovative in the way that it was shot and filmed and presented. There's some innovations in the filmmaking experience that I really enjoyed once I started reading behind the scenes. There's also some really good understated performance by Javier Bardem and Kerry Condon. The only unfortunate thing is that if you're just hearing now about the movie, you won't get the chance to watch it in theaters in IMAX, the way it was intended to be watched. That's what I did. I watched it when it came out. It's fantastic. It's truly majestic. And even if you're watching it on the small screen, I do recommend this movie. All right, let's go on to the next one. It's Black Bag by Steven Soderbergh. I could say it's a spy thriller, but that doesn't really do the movie justice. Rather, I think it's a relationship story with a spy thriller backdrop. There's a star-studded cast in here, including Cate Blanchett and Michael Fassbender. They play the lead spies, a spy couple that's trying to figure out who betrayed the British intelligence agency. What I loved about this movie is that it's tightly made, plotted. It doesn't try to do too much. It simply tells a very human story wrapped up in a spy thriller / mystery construct. And as I watched the movie, I got very distinctive Ocean's 11 vibes, right down to the cool people looking cool and the soundtrack. And that kind of makes sense because it's coming from Soderbergh, who made the Ocean's 11 and 12 films in the first place. This is just a well-made, tightly plotted thriller. It's not meant to be some sort of epic like The Brutalist. But if you're in the mood for a well-made movie that keeps you on the seat of your pants, then this is it. So that's my top 8 released this year. There are 2 movies that I saw this year that were released earlier, and I want to give them some special shout-outs. Number 1 is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Yes, I know it was released in 2019. I finally got a chance to see this. Better late than never. It is Quentin Tarantino's retelling of the Ted Bundy murders in 1969 Hollywood. I'm 6 years late to this one, but I think it's in Tarantino's top 5. Super memorable scenes and soundtrack, especially the end sequence with Brad Pitt and the hippies. I'll just say that. I don't want to spoil anything. I have watched that scene at least 10 times. It's a classic. So if you haven't had a chance yet and you're a fan of Tarantino like I am, check it out. The 10th movie, also not released in 2025, but I finally got a chance to sit down and watch this, is Killers of the Flower Moon, directed by Martin Scorsese, starring Leonardo DiCaprio. It is an epic crime drama set in 1920s Oklahoma, and if anything, I think I can just say that Leonardo DiCaprio is my actor of the year. He's appeared in 3 of my top 10 movies on this list, so that has to count for something. Leo is like a fine wine. He gets better with age, and I feel like he hasn't peaked yet. The best is still to come. So moving into 2 of my honorable mention movies. These are movies that didn't quite make the top 10. I still enjoyed them, but they fell a little short. Number 1 is Weapons, written and directed by Zach Cregger, who also made the excellent Barbarian. If you haven't seen it yet, please check it out. Weapons is, on the surface, a horror film about kids that disappear from a town and what happens, the aftermath. But if you know Cregger and his style of filmmaking, it's subversive. I had a great time watching this movie. I caught it on a rainy day in Taipei, in the theaters, and there are some truly memorable, iconic scenes. Performances were solid by folks like Josh Brolin, Julia Garner, and the rest of the cast. But I just couldn't help but feel that the movie doesn't live up to its super strong premise. It doesn't quite get to that movie A tier. There's themes in the movie that do not get fully explored, or it's too ambiguous to be effective. I don't want to spoil anything. So I'll just say, even the title of the movie, Weapons, is a missed opportunity. Maybe I just need to watch it again to work out my feelings. But for me, it's a strong B+ and not A movie. Still worth watching, definitely do, but keep your expectations in check. The other honorable mention is 28 Years Later. This is a movie coming from Danny Boyle, continuing the 28 Days Later set of zombie survival films. I can't say 28 Years Later is a bad movie. It's just very different from what I expected. There's some real technical artistry in here. There's a tight, no BS story. It just didn't quite hit the mark for me. I'll make an analogy. To me, it's like reading Batman comic books. You're reading all the classics. That's like the previous set of movies in this 28 Days universe. And then you're suddenly hit with The Dark Knight Returns, which is a completely different Batman story in a different timeline with vastly different expectations. That's what 28 Years Later felt like. But there is a sequel coming, so I'm hopeful for the next iteration. And I am also acutely aware that the director's intent doesn't always match the audience's, i.e. mine, and that's okay. I still respect the vision. It just didn't click for me. I was also hyping it up in my mind before watching it, so that might have something to do with it as well. Now we go to my list of the 2 most disappointing movies of the year. The first one, it pains me to say this as a longtime fan of the franchise, but Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, by far one of the worst finales to a multi-decade franchise that I've ever seen. To say this movie is disappointing is an understatement. You have to understand that I loved almost all the Mission Impossible movies. I even rewatched the original before watching this one. What I got was an absolute mess. The movie is like 90 minutes too long. It's a sad, tragic end to the franchise. It doesn't even make sense. Not that Mission Impossible movies ever made sense, but this one, especially egregious. Tom Cruise and the gang had their moments, but this wasn't it. The next one, next to Mission Impossible, the most disappointing movie of the year, especially when considering my expectations heading into it, was Sinners. Everyone liked this movie. It seemed like the movie had a 100% approval rating. Everyone hyped this up. Everyone talked about the rich themes found in this movie, that it was a 2-for-1, 2 movies in one in a great way. I just found it to be a disjointed mess. There's also a fan service scene at the end that felt completely gratuitous and unnecessary. I'm sorry to all the Sinners fans. I just wasn't into it. And this is coming from someone who actually enjoyed Black Panther and some of Ryan Coogler's earlier films. Just like 28 years later, I respect the vision and the execution of what the director was trying to do. I just wasn't into it. It just didn't do it for me. So now that we had the top 10 honorable mentions and most disappointing, let me share with you my movie of the year. Drum roll, please. And it was the first one I mentioned on my list. One battle after another. Even if you enjoy the movie as just a really well-made story with some great performances that keeps you on the edge of your pants, I think this is the movie of the year for me. It is extremely rewatchable. It is just a celebration of great filmmaking. So that's it. That's my list. Thanks for watching. I know film criticism, opinions are extremely subjective. I'm just trying to share with you what I enjoyed, and hopefully you'll take some of these recommendations and check it out for yourself. Overall, I did think that 2025 was a great year for movies, especially if you're willing to go outside of the mainstream a little bit. And let me know what your top picks are. I'd love to know.